The widow next door said she was lonely. I didn't know she meant my company would change her life. The story opens on an ordinary street softened by late autumn light. The narrator, a 26-year-old freelance designer who works odd hours, often notices the house next door, a place that seems to breathe silence. Its curtains rarely move, and yet every morning, a faint wisp of coffee steam rises behind the kitchen glass. He's seen her, Mrs. Alina Ward, mid-40s, widowed a few years ago. She carries herself with a calm that feels rehearsed, the kind that only people who've lost something important can wear convincingly. She tends her small garden, trims the ivy, and sometimes stops to watch the sky as though remembering someone. One windy evening, the narrator finds her struggling with a fallen plant pot near her porch. He crosses over instinctively, his voice hesitant but warm. "Let me give you a hand, Mrs. Ward." She glances up, eyes gray-green like the dusk, and smiles, a little embarrassed, a little grateful. The contact is brief, a hand brushing his wrist as they lift the pot together, but it lingers. It's not attraction yet, just recognition. Two people realizing how long they've been existing beside someone else without truly meeting. Later, as rain begins to fall, he notices her still outside, gathering scattered petals. He offers her his umbrella. She refuses at first, then accepts, her fingers grazing his. "You're kind," she murmurs. "I'm not used to people noticing anymore." That line stays with him all night. Her loneliness isn't loud. It's woven into the way she locks the door gently, the way light slips between her curtains, but never fully out. Over the next few days, they start exchanging simple gestures, a wave through the window, a short conversation while bringing in mail, small things that quietly change the rhythm of his days. He begins to time his coffee breaks to hers, just to catch that moment when she steps out into the sun. Through his narration, we feel the slow awakening of curiosity and compassion. The sound design in this episode could emphasize quiet domestic details, the clink of mugs, the wind through leaves, the creak of porch steps, drawing listeners into the intimacy of ordinary moments. By the end of part 1, Alina invites him in for tea. The invitation feels casual, but there's a trembling warmth behind it, like a door opening for the first time in years. He hesitates, then says softly, "I'd like that." The scene closes on the sound of a kettle beginning to whistle, a small, hopeful noise that marks the start of something neither of them expected. The kettle's whistle fades into the soft ticking of a wall clock. Inside Alina's home, everything feels touched by memory, from the faint lavender scent in the air to the framed photos of a man with kind eyes. The narrator senses, even before she says a word, that this house has known both warmth and absence. She moves around the kitchen with quiet precision, sleeves rolled up, her hair pinned loosely. He notices the way she hums under her breath, a melody that trembles on the edge of recognition, as if sung to fill silence rather than entertain. "I haven't had company for tea in a long time," she says, sliding a cup toward him. "Then I'll try not to spill it and ruin the occasion," he replies, half joking, earning her first real laugh. Light, startled, beautiful. Their conversation drifts between safe topics: her garden, his work-from-home chaos, the weather. Yet beneath each word lingers an emotional undercurrent, the sense that both are speaking around something larger. He catches her looking at his hands when he talks, and for a second, she seems to forget herself. Then, almost shyly, she glances away and busies herself with sugar spoons. The sound of rain against the window softens the edges of the room. She leans back in her chair, her voice lowering. "It's strange, isn't it? How full a house can feel when someone's here, even for an hour." He doesn't respond right away. Instead, he studies the faint lines near her mouth, not from age, but from smiling less than she once did. He sets his cup down carefully. "It doesn't take much to remind a place what laughter sounds like," he says. The silence that follows isn't uncomfortable. It's gentle, weighted, almost sacred. She walks him to the door later, her hand brushing the frame as if steadying herself. The porch light casts a soft halo around her hair. Before stepping out, he turns back, compelled by something he can't yet name. "I'm next door most days," he says. "If you ever need help with anything, or just another cup of tea." Her smile widens, warmer this time. "Careful," she murmurs. "I might take you up on that." The door closes slowly, but the faint sound of her humming follows him into the night air. As he walks home, he realizes his small apartment feels colder than before. The story pauses on this contrast, his awareness that her loneliness mirrors his own. The part ends with a quiet emotional shift. He looks out his window, sees her shadow moving behind the curtain, and whispers almost to himself, "She said she was lonely, but maybe I was too." The kettle sound from earlier returns, echoing softly, symbolizing a connection beginning to form. The next Saturday begins with sunlight spilling over fences and the smell of fresh bread from the corner bakery. The narrator is sketching at his window when a small car pulls into Alina's driveway. Out steps a young woman. Early 20s, bright scarf, a box of plants balanced in her arms. Alina greets her at the door, laughter breaking the quiet of the street. The sound catches him off guard. It's fuller than he's ever heard from her. For a moment, he simply watches, smiling to himself. Later that afternoon, he's out trimming his small hedge when Alina calls over the fence, her tone lighter. "My niece just arrived from the city. She's staying a while. Come meet her if you're not too busy being a gardener." He laughs, brushing leaves from his hands, and agrees. Inside, the house feels different. Windows open, radio playing softly. The niece, Clara, greets him with an easy warmth. She's studying psychology, she says, taking a break before her next semester. Her presence fills the spaces that once held silence. During tea, Clara teases her aunt gently. Aunt Alina's been bragging about her helpful neighbor, the mysterious one with the quiet eyes. Alina rolls her eyes, pretending annoyance but unable to hide her smile. The narrator feels a faint flush of embarrassment, though the teasing feels harmless, even healing. As they talk, he notices how Alina glances at him differently now, less guarded, more open. Clara seems to sense it too. She doesn't interfere, just keeps the conversation flowing, pulling laughter from both of them like it's the most natural thing in the world. When Clara steps out to take a phone call, Alina exhales softly. "She brings too much energy," she says, shaking her head, though affection softens her voice. "But maybe it's what this house needed." He nods. "Maybe it's what we both needed." They stand by the kitchen window, sunlight painting the edges of their reflections in the glass. For a heartbeat, silence stretches between them, comfortable, yet charged with something unspoken. Clara returns, announcing she's cooking dinner for all of them. The evening turns gentle and domestic. The sound of onions sizzling, soft music from the radio, three voices mingling over the clatter of plates. It feels like a family table that had been waiting to exist again. When he finally leaves, Clara waves from the doorway, and Alina lingers just behind her. "Thank you for coming," Alina says quietly. "It's been a long time since this house felt alive." He answers with a small, earnest smile. "Then let's keep it that way." As he walks home, the glow from their kitchen window follows him down the path. The narrator realizes the story is no longer just about loneliness. It's about the subtle ways people teach one another to live again. Spring drifts in quietly, softening the air and coaxing new color into Alina's garden. The narrator starts helping her with it on weekends. Nothing planned. Just something that happens naturally after Clara mentions how her aunt could use a strong back for the heavier pots. On Saturday morning, the garden smells of damp soil and blooming jasmine. Alina kneels near the rose bushes, her gloved hands moving with patient care. He works beside her, trimming and lifting, both of them moving in rhythm, the kind of easy silence that only exists between people who've grown used to each other's company. Clara brings them lemonade, teasing, "You two make this look like a painting." Alina chuckles, a hint of color rising in her cheeks. "We're just trying to keep the garden alive." But the narrator notices the moment, the way her eyes meet his briefly, then dart away, her laugh quieter now. Something has shifted, the awareness of being seen, not just by him, but by someone else. Later, Clara leaves to meet friends in town, and the afternoon slows. The sun dips low, brushing gold across Alina's hair. They sit together on the porch steps, sharing a quiet satisfaction in the day's work. "It's funny," she says after a while, "how tending to something living helps you feel alive too." "Maybe it's not the plants," he says softly. "Maybe it's who you're tending them with." Her smile fades into something gentler, introspective. She turns her head toward him, eyes shining in the fading light. "You remind me what calm feels like," she admits. "I didn't think I'd ever want to feel that again." He doesn't answer right away. The sound of evening birds fills the pause between them. A soft breeze lifts the edge of her shawl, brushing against his arm. He could move closer. It would feel natural, but he doesn't. Not yet. The moment is fragile, sacred in its restraint. Instead, he reaches to steady the shawl, his fingers brushing the back of her hand. She doesn't pull away. Time seems to hold its breath. "You're kind," she says finally, her voice almost a whisper. "And too young to spend your evenings with someone who talks about rose fertilizer." "It's not the roses I come for," he replies, his tone quiet but steady. A long silence follows, not awkward, but full. The kind of silence that says more than words could. When he stands to leave, she rises too, brushing soil from her skirt. Their eyes meet again, and there's a warmth there now, uncertain but undeniable. As he walks back toward his house, he glances over his shoulder. Alina still stands on the porch, one hand resting against the railing, watching him go. That night, he lies awake replaying her words, realizing that what began as simple kindness is growing into something far more delicate and far more dangerous to both their hearts. A week of spring rain keeps everyone indoors. Water streaks the windows, and the garden the three of them tended now glistens under gray light. The narrator works from his desk, but keeps catching himself glancing at Alina's house, the soft outline of her curtains moving with the draft. He hasn't seen her in days, only the faint glow of a lamp in her kitchen each evening. On Friday, Clara appears at his door with a half smile and a tin of cookies. "Aunt Alina baked too many," she says. She won't admit it, but she misses her gardening partner. They share tea at his table. Clara talks easily, yet he senses her studying him. After a pause, she says quietly, "You know, she's different when you're around. Lighter. I haven't seen her laugh like that since before my uncle passed." The remark lands gently but deeply. He doesn't answer right away. Clara softens her tone. "Just be kind with her heart. She's still learning how to use it again." Later that afternoon, the rain stops. He walks next door, uncertain if he's intruding. Alina opens the door before he knocks, as if she'd been standing there waiting. She looks tired but pleased to see him. "You came," she says simply. Inside, the air smells of vanilla and wet earth. She pours coffee, and they sit by the window watching the light return. Conversation starts hesitantly, then eases into familiar rhythm. The quiet between them now carries weight, not distance, but meaning. He asks about an old photograph on the shelf. Alina and her husband at the seaside, wind in their hair. She traces the edge of the frame with her thumb. "He was kind," she says softly. "We had plans that never happened." She turns toward him, eyes glistening yet steady. "I didn't think I'd have the courage to let anyone close again." He doesn't reach for her hand, but his voice lowers. "You don't have to rush. Sometimes it's enough just to sit beside someone who listens." Her shoulders ease. They talk about small things, the rain, the scent of new soil, until the heaviness thins. When Clara returns later, she finds them laughing over mismatched mugs and an old record spinning in the background. That night, the narrator writes in his sketchbook, "There are houses that echo and others that hum again." He realizes the loneliness that once defined their connection is turning into something quieter, steadier, companionship wrapped in unspoken care. And though neither he nor Alina has named it, both feel the same fragile truth rising between them. Something real is beginning, and it asks for gentleness above all. The following week brings warmth back to the neighborhood. Gardens hum with bees, laundry sways on clotheslines, and yet the narrator feels a strange stillness inside. Something between him and Alina has changed, not broken, but trembling, as if both are too aware of what's unsaid. He sees her less often now. Sometimes she waves from her window, sometimes she doesn't. Clara tells him her aunt's been lost in thought lately. The words stay with him longer than they should. One evening, unable to stay away, he walks next door under a violet sky. Alina answers the door in a loose sweater, her hair unpinned. Her smile is there, faint and uncertain. "I was beginning to wonder if you'd stopped visiting," she says. "I wasn't sure if I should," he admits. She gestures for him to come in. The house is dim except for the amber glow of a single lamp. Music plays softly, an old tune, slow and wistful. They sit across from each other, tea untouched. The conversation wanders, but every pause feels heavier than the words. Finally, she sets her cup down, eyes fixed on her hands. Clara says I've been quieter lately. She thinks I'm afraid. Are you? He asks gently. She exhales. Yes. Of wanting something again. Of what people might think. Of hurting someone who's been kind to me. Her voice trembles, but she doesn't look away. The narrator feels the air between them pulse with the truth they've both avoided. Alina, he says softly, you don't have to protect me from caring about you. She closes her eyes for a moment, then stands, moving toward the window. Outside, the garden glows faintly in the dusk, the roses they planted together now in bloom. He joins her, standing close but not touching. You remind me there's still color in the world, she whispers. But I don't know if I deserve it. You don't have to deserve it, he answers. You just have to let it in. The silence that follows is the longest yet, filled with heartbeats, unspoken emotion, the faint creak of the house settling around them. Slowly, she reaches out, her fingers brushing his sleeve, tentative but deliberate. It's a small gesture, but it feels like a confession. Maybe, she murmurs, we've both been lonely too long. Clara appears at the door then, her expression soft but knowing. She doesn't say anything, just sets down a plate of fruit, smiles quietly, and leaves them to the moment. The interruption eases the tension, reminding them that what's forming isn't forbidden, just fragile. As the scene closes, they stand by the window watching the night deepen over the garden. Their hands rest side by side on the windowsill, almost touching. It's not a declaration, not yet, but the fear has been named, and that makes space for something new. Morning arrives with the sound of birds and the smell of rain-soaked earth. The narrator stands at his kitchen window, coffee in hand, watching sunlight pour through thinning clouds. Alina's curtains are drawn open for the first time in weeks, light spilling freely into her home. It feels symbolic, though he doesn't yet know why. Later that afternoon, Clara stops by, her expression calm but purposeful. "Aunt Alina wants to see you," she says. "She's been sorting things out, and I think she needs to say something." He nods, heart thudding with both hope and caution. When he steps onto Alina's porch, she's waiting by the door. There's a serenity about her now, a softness in her eyes that wasn't there before. She invites him in, and they sit by the window, the same spot where their unspoken feelings once trembled between them. On the table lies a small photo album. She opens it, flipping through pages filled with her past, her husband, their travels, birthdays, old friends. Then, tucked in the back, a new picture, the three of them in the garden, smiling amid the roses. "Clara took this," she says quietly. "I almost told her to delete it. I didn't want to see myself moving on." She looks up, eyes meeting his. "But now I think maybe that's what he would have wanted. For me to live again, to let someone in." He listens, saying nothing, because words would only disturb the peace of what she's finally allowing herself to feel. After a long pause, she continues, "You've been patient. You never asked for more than I could give. I want you to know how much that's meant to me." He smiles gently. "All I wanted was for you to smile like that again." Her eyes glisten, and this time, she doesn't look away. She reaches across the table, her hand resting over his, steady, deliberate, certain. There's no rush, no need for explanation. It's not about romance in the ordinary sense. It's about connection born of empathy, trust, and quiet courage. Clara walks in with tea a few moments later, sensing the shift without comment. She sets the tray down and joins them. The three share an easy laughter that ripples through the room, the kind that comes from having walked through grief together and found warmth waiting at the end of it. The final scene closes at dusk. The narrator stands at his window again, watching Alina and Clara in the garden, laughter drifting on the wind. He steps outside, joining them among the roses. Alina turns as he approaches, eyes soft, hand extended. "You're just in time," she says. "The evening light's too beautiful to miss." He takes her hand, and together they stand beneath the fading sun, not as two lonely souls, but as two people who found peace in each other's presence. The story ends here, quietly, warmly, with the promise that love doesn't always arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it simply stays. Clapperboard closing narration, call to action. Soft music fades in, gentle piano or acoustic guitar. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it just knocks quietly next door and asks if you'd like some tea. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever found warmth where you least expected it, make sure to subscribe, like, and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Every story here is a reminder that connection can heal and that it's never too late to let the light back in. Pause. Thank you for listening to The Widow Next Door said she was lonely. Then her niece changed everything between us. I'll see you in the next story, where love finds its way, quietly, once again. Music fades out with the sound of birds or a gentle breeze.